we're further now than than I'd say any generation has ever been from understanding the world, the culture, and the values of like our parents' generation.
Yeah.
And I guess, like, do you think that this is by design? Because I've heard people saying that this is on purpose, right? That this is to try and like make us forget our heritage and our culture and like the achievements of the past and the wisdom of the past, and the reason that there were certain things that were the way they were. Not that all things aren't, can't be improved on, but yeah, there was some wisdom in a lot of things that were just sort of like throwing out and would be happy seemingly to just like cast aside. Do you think this is on purpose? Like, is this like a concerted effort?
Okay, so your question was, is there a deliberate effort to have us repudiate the past and so forget about it?
Yeah, because you said you
So
said you're seeing these signs. And
yeah.
like, do you think it's
Well, my
deliberate?
answer is yes and no. I think there's certainly a lot of people who very unabashedly would say that we need to sever and repudiate the past, that, who view the past as basically emblematic of an oppressive, backward, dark time, and that we need to get as far away from it as possible and progress towards some undefined endpoint, but away from the past. I mean, there's a lot of people for whom this is their guiding principle. They're progressives, and they can never define what their actual kind of telos is, or what their goals are. They just know that they want to get away from where we have been. So there's obviously people like that. I think that, though, that generally it's a lot of ideas are powerful, and people become enthralled to particular ideologies. I think there are also generally, I think these things are better explained by the presence of powerful impersonal forces in the world, right? Not sort of back rooms plotting to lead, make people deracinated and rootless and atomized, but that's just the effect. But yeah, I think like if you go back and look at the Cultural Revolution in China is the most obvious and stark example of this, in that it was a 10-year campaign with ebbs and kind of, it waxed and waned at different points, but the general thrust of which was to completely sever China's connection to its material, spiritual, aesthetic, intellectual traditions, so that a new man and a new society could be created. And it's a view of human nature as being totally malleable, right? And so the idea is that if you can just sort of start fresh, you can remake man in the way that you want to. But it was driven by, there's like this campaign against the four olds, the old customs, old habits, and Red Guards, particularly during the kind of the height of this in the late 60s, would be roaming the countryside, searching out anyone who might have a musical instrument or an article of worship, or anything that was reminiscent of, or a bourgeois mentality, but more particularly of an affection to the past. These were counter-revolutionaries and reactionaries, and if discovered, they would be trotted out and ritually humiliated and condemned and made to engage in, performative forced apologies. There's parallels to cancel culture, the difference being that in the context of the Cultural Revolution, you also have people being beaten to death and killed. But there are obviously a lot of similarities to what we're doing today, to say that we're hollowing out libraries and blacklisting books and tearing down statues and developing a kind of caricatured view that our ancestors were stupid, evil, malicious, racist, and not worthy of that basically this inheritance that has been passed to us is something that doesn't deserve our gratitude or reverence or respect or deference. So yeah, there's a real attitude of there's a hubris to it, and that's dangerous, I think, because we don't realize just how precarious and how fragile civilization is. These things are very hard to build. They're very, very easy to destroy, right? We are right? Civilization is always only one generation deep, and I'm that's something that I'm like very keenly aware of. So, yeah, the approach of trying to treat the past like it's something that we absolutely know better than anyone who came before us is well, obviously, I think it's very foolish. So, but yes, definitely a condition under which totalitarianism thrives, and it's something that every totalitarian system tries to achieve. But we have done it ourselves without need of centralized political coercive power.
Because it's trendy. We could, if someone had realized this, they could have sold the Chinese on this years ago. That would have been much more cost effective for them. So,
well, liberalism has been sort of hacking away at the roots of our culture and our civilization for centuries. So it's been a much longer, more subtle process, and for that reason, much more invidious.
Well, I mean, classical liberalism is about entertaining everything. So hopefully theoretically is we should be fine with everything. But yeah, it's taken a different turn. And we're also, I think, we're going to find out just how easy a civilization is to destroy in the coming months and years. Some of our leaders in the developed world seem to be doing their absolute utmost to see just how fragile the system is. It's like, do you ever get the feeling it's like, have you ever seen that film Rat Race?
No, what's the film?
It's so packed with like great actors. Actually, it's got John Cleese, Seth Green, loads and loads of people. Anyway, John Cleese plays this like billionaire who like picks like 10 or 12 people at his casino at random, and then tells them to race across the country, like gives them all keys to a locker, and there's like I don't know, like $3 million in this locker on the other side of the country. Go. And they all don't believe him, and then like they get out into the hall, and then they all go crazy, like trying to get across the country. And the film's about like their race to get to this $3 million. But him and a bunch of other billionaires or millionaires and like just rich people are sitting around betting on it. So they're all like picking people that they thought were going to be they're going to win, and then you follow them like gambling on all the craziness as it goes along. And do you ever think sometimes that just like there's like billionaires sitting around being like, or politicians even, they get drunk and they're like, do you reckon we could crash the pod? Be like, no. You're crazy. You couldn't crash the pod. Be like, watch me. And because that's actually what it feels like sometimes. Obviously, I doubt that's what they're really doing.
So I think that you might be more of a believer in human competence than I am. This is always the big problem with conspiracy theories. Is that there are conspiracy theories, but like for the most part, people are just incompetent. So really elaborate mass cover-ups are very hard to execute, and this is why I think a lot of things are more easily attributed to impersonal forces that have their own internal logic and momentum, rather than to sort of sinister people somewhere plotting against us. But
yeah, no, I mean, I tend to believe that there's a lot of very powerful competing forces who all want the best outcome for themselves. That's basically, and I find it difficult to see them all working completely in conjunction with each other. I think it's more likely to be a whole bunch of competing powerful interests whose interests happen to overlap in certain areas, but most of the time they're all just like vying for their own wealth, power, and whatever kicks they get out of it, their ego, whatever it happens to be at that level of like wealth and stuff. But thanks for making it all the way to the end of the video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment for us in the comments below. Let me know what you thought and if you'd like to see more of this from the show. Thank you, and we'll see you again next time.